And welcome to Straight Talk. This is your Drive at 5 show. Catherine Tyson, your host. Thank you so much for joining me this afternoon. Let me tell you, right when you hear that, let's get to the point, that thing, it feels like it's actually me getting into a car and it is revving and ready to go. And sometimes it just feels like I'm running to jump into the car because it started without me. It's brilliant. It really is. You guys are in your cars or getting ready to get in your cars now on your way home. I love this opportunity that I have to speak with you and that you ride along with me and you listen along. Thank you all so much for that. We could not do it without you. The Star 92.7 family thanks you for that. Because of you, we continue to ride along. Okay. No pun intended. Thank you all so much once again for joining me this afternoon. It is Wednesday, and generally what we do is Wellness Wednesday today. You know what? Here's what we're going to be doing today. It is about wellness. Yes, it's about our wellness. It's about, kind of getting in touch with ourselves and learning some history. So, as you know, if you listened yesterday, we were talking to Dr. Frank McField, and I've brought him back today so that we can continue the conversation because it was just absolutely so interesting. But today we're going to be talking a little bit more about kind of race relations and the connection with Christianity and race and whatever else comes up. Because let me tell you, I don't know if any of you have had the opportunity to sit down and speak with Dr. Frank. It can be about anything. And the depths that you go, I wonder sometimes. Yesterday when we were having the conversation, I was wondering if when he is thinking or creating or writing or feeling, if he actually kind of, jolts himself a little bit to say, oh my goodness, like I didn't realize that I could go that deep with something. It's very, very interesting. And what I love to do, we talk about a lot. I talk a lot about ushering our young people through, ushering them in so that they can be our leaders. But what I also want us to ensure that we're doing at all times is holding on to our elders as well and gathering knowledge from them, right? And informing ourselves, not for a second thinking that, we know all that we need to know. We absolutely do not. And we need the help of our elders to guide us along and to walk us along. So if any of you know of any person that you think that I should be speaking to, that's young, that's older, that's in the middle, that's whoever, please let me know. Contact us here and let us know. Straight Talk at star927.com, right? Definitely, so that we can, just really bring them on so that we can talk about it. This is your station, Cayman. This is our station, Cayman. And we need to be talking, we need to be listening, and we need to be growing because as we sit and not listen or not talk or not grow or not learn, everything around us is. And so, as everything around us is, that's going to either leave us at a disadvantage, right? Or it's going to leave us behind in one way. So it's very important for these conversations to continue. So thank you once again for joining me this afternoon. Dr. Frank, with no further ado, good afternoon and welcome to the show.
Afternoon. Afternoon.
And how are you doing this
Oh, doing
afternoon?
great today. I got up early again this morning. I think I worked a little bit too hard today
Okay.
because I was getting a nice flow. And when you break off from writing, and because it's a conscious and a subconscious process
Right.
that has to work together
Right.
for you as you are a writer, to get the real depth
Yeah.
of the conversation that you're having with God, or people say you're having with yourself.
Right.
And that brings us back to this whole idea in the Bible where it says, in the beginning was the Word. And the Jews have a saying, and it's actually taken from Egypt and the Egyptians because they actually took a lot of the Egyptian secrets and a lot of the Egyptian knowledge and mythologies and turned it into what they would call theology.
Right.
And theology really is the worship of religion. So that is constructed in such a way that it is very difficult for any common person or any person who doesn't know the inner secrets of how it is constructed
Right.
to be able to question any of the paradigms or the metrics that is set up. When we realize that when we are born with emptiness in the brain, and that when it's filled, it's only 20% of it that we're using anyway. So we got another 80%.
Right.
It goes to show that the capacity of the human being is very great in terms of what we're capable of doing. But because time does not exist, it's a construction, it's a human construction, it's part of the metrics. It's based upon the movement of the sun. You know, people started with the sundials. We started with that in Egypt, measuring it because people started to have appointments, or they saw that there were appointments. Nature created appointments. There was a
Right.
time and season for everything,
Right.
appointments,
Right.
so that you could, you know, that things would return to where they were. So there was a repetition. And the Bible said there's nothing new under the sun, but that's not what it really says. It's saying actually that everything that was is going to be again is again. So it's talking about repetition, the cycle of life, the circle of life that represent repetition. So life is not linear; it's actually circular.
Yeah, it's moving
Yeah, moving.
constantly.
As the sun moves, as the earth moves, as the planet moves, as the universe moves, and if we were going linearly, we'll go to an end in any case. So it's actually circling within a particular realm that has been established. So that's important when I'm doing things to recognize the origins of things, because most of us just begin with where we are. When we went to school, they started saying A, B, C, D, then start setting up a whole paradigm in your mind.
Right.
And it's very difficult for you to avoid that, to go beyond that, to challenge that.
Right. Right. Yeah. And in a way, when you think about it, everything that's kind of going into your mind is almost like a deliberate, right?
Like a computer.
Yeah.
So there are things you're programmed like a computer's program, because that's what you really are. Except that there is a secret about the human being, which is the spirit. And because we have a spirit, sometimes the spirit can override the program.
Yeah.
When we talk sometimes in writings, you as a writer yourself know the word catharsis, which is a Greek word, the overflowing, the overfill, the filling. You know, when you everything is just pouring out. We
Right.
find that in the whole concept of Pentecost.
Right.
When on the day of Pentecost, when people are all speaking different language, but just at the same time understanding each other, that is so significant. That is the crux of the new religion called Christianity, the new
Right.
structure, the new paradigm, because it speaks to a wisdom tradition that is profoundly Egyptian. So
Right.
Christianity is very much based upon Egyptian mythology, they call it.
Okay. Yeah.
So one of the things that I was doing, of course, in my writing is referring to the fact that Martin Luther King was assassinated in Memphis, Tennessee. Memphis is Egypt. Egypt is the name of the first seat of the government of the United Kingdom of Upper and Lower Egypt. Now, if you
Okay.
imagine how significant that
Right.
is,
Right.
because one of the things that Dr. Martin Luther King said was that we would get there, but we are getting there not with our own help, but with cosmic help.
Wow.
So when we understand that America is actually a emblematic Egypt,
Yeah.
it's Egypt,
Yeah.
north and south.
Yeah.
The problems that are going on in America is the attempt to remove the New World Empire government from America
Okay.
and pass it on to Russia, but using China as a way of doing
Like a
that.
pathway almost, yeah?
Huh?
Like a pathway, like
Well,
China kind of being,
yeah,
you know,
because Richard Nixon went to China in the 70s. He took American power to China, so America became not turned from producers to consumers and consuming all the Chinese junk.
yeah,
So
okay.
when we see the way that the world is run, it's not run by the people. It's not run by the workers. It's not run by the middle class. It's run by a very small elite group of families. And this is when you hear people talking about the conspiracy theories.
Right.
There's a lot to it.
Right, right, absolutely. So I went on your Facebook page because I
Hmm.
mean, you and I are friends on Facebook anyway, and I was just looking for a couple of things, and I knew you were talking about your book that you're
Hmm.
writing. It's called Between Gods. Yes, and it is the subtitle "Racism: The Trump Card in World Politics." Is that
Yes.
the yeah? Okay. So I wanted you to talk to us a little bit about that. I had to sift through some things, obviously, on the page, but I just you just came up with a lot of things. I found a one drop theory thing that you talked
The
about.
run drop blood. Yeah.
Right.
Yes.
I
Yes.
like
Yes.
that. And I wanted to talk a little bit about it because I think that these conversations are very, very important. We started it yesterday,
Mhm.
so I wanted to continue. Talk to us a little bit about that.
Well, the one drop theory is actually a Zionist theory because to the Zionists, to the Jews, blood is so important. We notice that in the Bible, in Genesis, we start with the sacrifice of the ram. The ram is also very important because it what symbolically what it represents in mythology,
Right.
and that is a that the ram is a fertility god. Who, you know, so you get like pyramid and different words that have a lot to do with the expression of symbolic power of a people
Right.
because it's a symbolism of power that we worship that empowers us
Right.
collectively. So individually you can have whatever belief that you want, but collectively you have to have ways of relating to that belief. You know, if you look at the Lord's sign, you look at the cross, you look at the different thing, the yin and yang sign,
Right.
different things like that. It represents these. It brings out in you, or it pulls out a reaction that could even be subconsciously in you,
Right.
but you know about it, but it might be planted deep in your subconscious. So
Right.
the one drop theory is really saying that if a person has one drop of black blood, African blood in them, it means they can't be white, so they got to be black. So you either got to be black or white.
Right. Yeah.
And so America is structured along the lines of race, caste, and class
Right.
because, and so is Cayman, because if you have one drop, that means that you come from one caste, which is white. And if you have no, if you pure, so called pure white, which I don't know how many people are
Well,
that
what that
in the
really
world,
means.
but
Right.
we can play those games because it's a metric that we're setting up. Then that means that you're white. And so that's a caste. You cannot move from one caste to the other. The caste system was actually already in India, but it was the Europeans or Eurasian that actually racialized it because it was the most comfortable and easiest way to create differentiations between people and therefore different social and economic
Right.
rewards.
And I mean, obviously, this is the thing. No matter how uncomfortable people feel about talking about race, no matter how uncomfortable people feel about talking about being black or white or whatever, it's a reality. It is an absolute reality. And it's a reality that is constant. I mean, I was looking on on the internet today and I was looking at some photos on Instagram, actually some photos of you know whites only water fountains,
Yeah.
right next
Yeah.
to black, to black only water fountains, like literally right next to each other, and just so many things. And the comments were that we have come so far, but we're still so much farther than where we should be.
Well, if,
So, you know what I mean? Like, I know people feel uncomfortable about it, but it's a conversation that obviously needs to be had.
well, they're uncomfortable about it because the system don't want us to talk about it because the system is a white imperialist colonialist system, racist system that want to retain this. And if you do not think about it because you cannot talk about it, then it's not going to change.
Well, and that to me is what's so sad about it is that when people act as if it doesn't exist and they don't want you to talk about it, it feels as if you want it to continue. You want it to
They do
continue.
want it to
Yes.
continue, and
There
also
there would
those,
have to be that conclusion.
and some people want it to continue, subconsciously want it to continue, because if you're not comfortable with it, you will talk about it.
Right.
You will want it to change. So,
Right.
but there are people who are then bought off by social privileges and economic privileges to make sure to say it's okay because I'm okay. I have
Right.
a car, so I'm okay.
Right.
So I don't need it to change. I got a good job. I'm a civil servant. That's the reason why also you have a caste type of situation at at the government administration. All those people that come in, like my niece Gloria Macfield Nixon and her husband and all those people, he comes from a civil service background. His grandfather Saji, who was one of the first black policemen. If you've seen the picture of that big black man, and so these are the servants of the colonialists. They maintain it and they receive protection and privilege as a result of it. And they're better off than other people. They have a great security system that protects them, and therefore they serve the crown, which is the perpetuator of the racism, which allows people to benefit from the collection of wealth that makes them
So
powerful.
are we talking about all civil servants then? It would obviously have to be talking about everybody
Well, I'm
that's
talking about everybody.
yeah.
I mean, I include myself when I include this because there
Right.
are attitudes that I have. I am discussing myself all the time. I say to people when I'm making the discussion about things, I'm not excluding myself. This is not a personal accusation.
Right.
I'm talking about socialization. How
Yeah.
was I socialized? It was socialized
Absolutely.
within a colony.
Yes.
My God.
Yes.
So I can fight with many of my emotions, but at the same time, my intellectual understanding is different from my personal behavior.
Right.
And people know see that.
Yeah.
But we're not talking about the fact that I'm different. I'm talking about the fact that I know what's going on.
Right.
And I've known what's going on. And I think it should change. It should
Okay.
change for my son. It should change for yours.
Right.
It should change for people. I am not against, and I've said that many times. I am for integration. I'm for miscegenation. I encourage it because it's part of evolution. That
Right.
people come from Africa
Right.
and they have some tendencies that are very, very wicked.
Right.
And so their blood needs to be mixed.
Yeah.
That was part of Alexander the Great's policy. That's why we have Hellenism. Today we call it multiculturalism,
Right.
but we don't realize where it comes from.
Right.
It's only through historical studies that you understand where these terms come from.
Right. Now, yesterday, we talked about. Today, we're going to talk about before slavery. We want to talk about the kings and queens. We want to talk about the root, right? Because I think, especially in America, a lot of black people are kind of or would be accused of being hung up on the bondage of slavery and the all the negatives about that's what black looks like, but
Well,
in actuality, that's not really the focus, or
I
it
don't.
should be.
I don't think that you should. I think you should be hung up on it.
Yeah.
The Jews are hung up on it.
But
Everybody.
but okay, so you
You,
made
you
a
go. You
statement.
go back to the Bible.
Yeah, so you made a statement. The Jews are hung up on it, but they still work through it, don't they?
No, they use it.
Yeah, exactly.
They use
Exactly.
it. They use it to get sympathy from people. They use it to get advantage over people. Every time you say something about them, they shut you down because they're protected.
Yeah, but
Because they're always seen as victims.
but is there some form of empowerment that they've also garnered from it?
Well,
Because they're doing quite well.
because they have teachers. Their religion is teaching people. It's
Right.
not brainwashing
Right,
people.
because if you compare the Jews' plight or whatever they're suffering to the blacks in terms of slavery and everything, when you look at how they have come out of it or how they're doing financially, socially, economically, there's a very vast difference, isn't there?
Well,
So what do you think
well,
that is?
there's a vast difference because that you cannot compare the Jews because if you remember Spartacus, And the character Spartacus, in his fight against the Romans, although they lost, they overthrew those people that thought that they were gods or the son of gods, and that the Jews were nothing.
Okay.
We tried that in Haiti with Toussaint Louverture in the French Haitian Revolution.
Right.
That's the reason why today people still hate Haiti and Haitians and the religion,
Right.
and nobody will give them money, nobody will give them support. When you read the history of Haiti and what happened to the black revolutionaries in Haiti, you understand that you cannot free yourself with somebody else's religion.
Okay. So what would you say is the difference then between the outcome for the
Well,
Haitians
the Haitian,
versus the outcome for the Jews in some
well,
instances?
actually the outcome was the same.
Okay.
Spartacus' outcome was the same as Toussaint Louverture's outcome. The only difference was that because the Haitians are black, African, they could be identified and targeted. The Jews are the same race
Okay.
as all the Europeans.
Okay.
They are Indo-European. They're the same. So don't when we talk about Jews and when we talk about Israelites, Israelites are black.
Okay.
The Israelites are black people. The Israelites are members of a theological uh, 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 group in Egypt. The last pharaoh, not the last pharaoh, I'm sorry, but the pharaoh who we get the word amen from. Amen, we use amen
Yeah.
at the end of our prayer.
Yes.
And that's
Where's that come
it's
from?
Egyptian.
Okay.
Egyptian.
And what is the meaning? Where does it derive
Because
from?
we get Zeus, which is the Greek god, Zeus, amen, Ra, as the sun, Ra. And so as a result of that, we say amen. People
Okay.
don't know when they're worshiping the religions how the religions are really a concoction of the mixture of cultures. So when people say, "Oh, it's their religion," it's not their religion.
So do you believe then, there's always the talk about religion being connected to slavery in some way to keep Black people kind of in their place and give them a hope for tomorrow. Like, don't worry about don't worry about your suffering here. Your suffering is in another place. It's in heaven. So, do you not believe that then?
Well, I mean, if you take the United States for as an example, that's a completely different example than if you took Cuba. If you take Jamaica, that's a completely different one than if you took Haiti, which was French. The Catholic countries operated different than the Protestant countries. The Protestant countries were just interested in materialism. They didn't care about nobody's soul.
Okay.
Okay? So niggas could go to hell. They didn't care about that.
Okay.
The Catholics felt they had a responsibility. So, in 7 days after they arrived in the colony as slaves, they had to be baptized by the masters.
Okay.
So they were integrated, and this is where you get like Santeria and the other African religions in Brazil that are part of Catholicism. So that's how religion always worked. People mix the different cultural aspects that might
Right.
find interesting or empowering, or because of their contacts with other people, or because of enslavement, or however it is. So actually, in the Caribbean, in the French uh, and Spanish areas where Catholics were in control, you have new religions, new African religions, or yeah, religious denominations or whatever you want to call it. In the British ones, you don't have anything. So
Okay.
they're all doing the same thing that the others are doing. There were no distinctions. And I think that is clearly uh, a much more retrogressive or backward position than in these other colonies where they can create something that's a little bit more different and flamboyant. And that would obviously attract the colonizers afterwards to join that religion as well, because that's how religion works. It's a very dynamic kind of system
Right.
of the development of human subconscious or super subconsciousness.
Okay. And so, who do you think we're most influenced by then in Cayman?
Well, I mean, the church came here after. just before the abolition of slavery, which was in the 1830s,
Okay.
early 30s. So we had a very late intrusion.
Right.
That's why I was saying yesterday about the fact that African religion, the belief in the Dapi, which is African religion,
Right.
was so prominent in the Cayman Islands, and the use of medicine, because medicine and magic goes along. In Egypt, and I call it Negus, Negus, which really is a very nice Egyptian, Ethiopian type of term for a kind of nobility.
Right.
Uh, so I'm saying, taking away the word nigger, I'm putting negus, Negus,
Okay.
negus,
Okay.
negro, negus,
Yeah.
black, negus.
Okay.
So we can change the language because the power is in the word.
Right. Now, I know I also saw when I was reading some of your stuff on your page, I saw the demonization of African language and spirituality has been the cause of much grief and tribulations in the world. These revelations are significant to my understanding of resurrection and Christ present after death and resurrection being defined as light bearing heat or energy. Now, that was very important for me because I think that uh, it just the demonization period of of Africa, or
Yeah,
which obviously is going to be connecting all Black people. Then, if we're going to consider the one drop rule, right? Then, if we're demonizing, the the source, then it's a whole entire group of people that are demonized then, and
yeah.
that to me is very tragic.
Well, but it's deliberately so because if you get the people coming to peace with their physical body, their flesh, then they're not going to act the same way.
Right.
The important thing about Christ is Christ's body is not important.
Right.
Christ's spirit is important. And it's a lesson to us that our bodies are not important. Our spirit is important, but we worship the body. We worship the body to the extent that we put statues up. We put paintings of Christ on the stained glass window. I feel I was tortured as a child, having to look at this white figure who was always looking after me. And if I had my little 2 pennies to buy candies, I had to put it in the collection uh, pot
Okay.
because it was dropping, 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 dropping. Here the pennies fall. Everyone for Jesus, he shall have them all.
Okay.
What are you collecting money for? Jesus told us about money in the temple.
Okay.
Yet they're doing the complete opposite. What I'm saying is that the contradictions in the practice of the religion rather than in the religion. That's
Right.
what we have to deal with. The contradictions in not in democracy, but the practice of democracy. The contradictions not in the law, but the application of the law.
All right. Yeah. Well, we're going to take a quick break and I'm going to come back and chat with you a little bit. I looked at something also I saw. Is it Noam Chomsky?
Uh-huh.
I thought that was very interesting. I'd love to talk to you about that when we come back, as well as I'd want you to really talk to the listeners and young people just about where do we go from here and what can we do, because I think that that's what's important, right? I mean, if we're going to be looking at our elders to get information to know our history, we also need to get some advice, right? So I'd love to do that when we come back. So just
Sure.
stay tuned. This is Straight Talk, your Drive at Five show. Catherine Tyson, your host. I'm here with Dr. Frank McField, and we're chatting about race. We're chatting about, just complications all around one drop rule and religion, how it all connects. And we shall be back with more. Stay tuned. And welcome back to Straight Talk. This is your Drive at Five show. Catherine Tyson, your host. Thank you so much for joining me this afternoon. Dr. Frank, we are chatting about race. We're chatting about, you know, just how it's connected with spirituality
And religion.
and religion. How I feel somehow how we're being distracted by things. But I really wanted when we come back now to talk about the listeners or the young people. What is it that you'd want to tell them? What is it that you think that we can do? Because like I said, I want to help usher our young people through, and I also want to take our elders and be able to trust you all for the advice and the knowledge. I'm an elder in some ways. I'm an elder to my children. Um, but what is it? What is it that you would want to tell young people about, yeah, what they're doing versus what
Yeah.
they could be doing? What's happening? What do
Well,
we need to know?
well, young people are always led. They come out of the womb and they come in looking protection. They cry, and the mother answers the cry. That's why sometimes when young people want something, even when they're 3 years old, even when they're 40 years old, even when they're 60, 73 years old, like me, we cry. Ah, I want that, and we protest. So we get attention,
Right.
and the attention is the salvation. The mother saves you. She
Right.
gives you milk. She protects you, but she also gives you an ego, and that's the way that you survive. So she teaches you how to survive, just like how the little animals are taking the little chicks around and showing them how to do things. The mother does that.
Right.
That's what we call rearing. But your way that you learn how to survive because you're a human being will depend upon the environment in which you were raised yourself.
Right.
And if you have a history of slavery, and if you have a system of colonialism, that will show up in your roadmap. And you will show that to your children. You said, don't do that when they should perhaps be doing that because it would be good. Because a little white kid from the upper class would be doing that because he has the privilege of doing that. He has the right of doing that. And so we don't only have rights in society, we have privileges.
Okay.
So when we come now to the distractions, when we should be socializing our kids to be able to have a much more positive attitude, and the positive attitude will come from them knowing themselves. Know thyself. Let me teach you know yours to know yourself.
Okay.
If you go into the lodge, the first thing they're going to tell you is they're going to teach you to know yourself.
All right. How do they do that?
Well, I mean, I don't think that we know exactly, but I mean, we could speculate that what they do is that they bring you to know their religion,
Right.
their belief,
Okay.
because your belief is your religion.
Okay.
It's the paradigm, it's the metric. So we
Yeah.
need to be talking about the metrics. If we're talking about studying gangs, as I've done, I had to study music, their music. I had to study sessions. I had to go to sessions. I had to be a part of it. I had to be able to feel what they were feeling. So you have to get deep down inside the metrics,
Okay.
the sound of the music, the vibration of the music, the feeling of what moved them, so that I could be able to say at the end of the day, this is more powerful than you think. This empowers them.
Right.
This is their ritual. So they would go on the street, they have a session, they come out of the session, the police would come and they would start throwing bottles at the police.
Right.
And the police would run. So it actually created a group formation. So what I'm saying is that that particular kind of reaction to oppression is negative for the black people because it's going to put them in jail, because the system is going to put them in jail.
Right.
That's not the kind of metrics that you want. You want a metrics that is going to create at least a positive way out
Yeah.
of the frustration and disappointments which people might feel.
Yeah.
So that's a very important part of how you change your socialization, the basis of your socialization system that impacts your education when you have that knowledge. Because when the child is going around in the school knowing about sex and making sex videos and having sex, and the girl has to have sex, and all that's going on in the school now, these people don't know what's going on. The educational system is criminal in this country because there are people that have studied the problem for over 40 years, not just me. When we went in and we took over social services and children and family services, we changed the name to children and family service, Catherine.
Right.
We started to create agencies of change that could understand or learn to understand the dynamics of social interaction in the Cayman Islands and begin to build new paradigms for change. They don't
Right.
want it, they don't understand it, and they reject it, and we're suffering, and we will continue to suffer. You will have your talented 10% will succeed, and 90% will always fail.
Okay. And so, do you think that the 90% that's failing, that's going to fail, is a better deal for the powers that be, and that's why it's left alone, or is it just ignorance of not knowing any better, not knowing how to change that? Because I want to believe that it's the latter. I want to believe that it's not
Well,
that people want the 90% to fail.
well, the whole thing about the dynamics of the metric, and it's a common word that's being used today, and it should be used because I think it gives us a picture that we didn't have access to before, and so that more of us know that we're saying the brain is empty. We build paradigms. We can alter certain things. That's why we have psychiatrists, sociologists, and those types of people. We can work with the brain. We can change it because there are certain things that are on the screen, and there's certain things that is deep that we call the subconscious and
Okay.
the conscious. Conscious is what's on the screen, what I'm dealing with now. But deep inside, I can automatically sort of bring things up from the subconscious, and that you see that shooting up all the time because I consciously know how to talk to an audience, but subconsciously there's a desire to show the overall picture that might get out of what radio talk might be and might get into a high intellectual level that if I went to teach a class even at university they say, oh, you're going to you lost the class. But you don't lose the class if you talk to them 3 or 4 times. People will begin to say, "Well, we understand how you're thinking," and they'll follow you because this is all working on vibrations.
Okay.
So information is vibrations. So if we come to the point where we start to show people how to deconstruct the reality, it's like a puzzle.
Yeah.
Pull it down for me and then get me to try to put it back a few times. And then I understand the puzzle. It wasn't all that hard after all.
Right.
But we don't want to try. And the reason why we don't want to try is because our handlers, our managers, don't want the deconstruction of this paradigm, this metric called colonialism that they have set up because it works perfectly. And they're afraid if they move one thing, the whole thing might collapse.
Everything's gonna crumble.
Right.
Yeah.
That's why they went after Man Lee, who was just basically trying to give people a relationship with their reality, a little control of their reality. But CIA went in there, this one went in there, and the other one went in there. And of course, the white Jamaicans left with the money and so forth and so on. And so at the end of the day, he went down as a person that was supposed to be evil when he wasn't. The thing has to change. Otherwise, if it doesn't change, the situation gets so bad that all you have is gunman soldiers and gunman gangsters, and they're all fighting.
Okay.
And people get caught in between. The economies get ravished. People think that can't happen here, and of course it can't happen now, but it could happen later on. And what you want to do is you want to be able to doctor your society, to give it certain types of tweets to make sure it's going where it is that you really want it to go. And there's nothing wrong, therefore, in analyzing where you might have difficulties in making the tweets, putting the programs in the prison to do the rehabilitation, not letting so many people go that they become a model for people who feel, well, I can let go too and I won't drown.
Right. Well, now, what are your thoughts? Because you and I talked about this briefly. What are your thoughts on young people and social media?
Well, I think the social media thing is really that
and how it ties in with what you're talking
well,
about.
because there are people out there that controls this platform that make money off of rude kids who want all the things that they're selling.
Okay. Okay.
So I ain't going to school without a cell phone that costs a lot of money. I need my Nike shoes, and need to look like this. And I need to go out with my girlfriend. We need to hang out by the movies, and we need to get in trouble, and we need to do this because that one is doing that, and I need to look like that. So they set in terms of imaging, they set the ideals for our children, the norms for our children. They're creating norms, and they're creating it very fast and changing it very fast, and according to how it profits them and the profits they're making. So that's good for commercialism, for commercialized society, but it's very bad for the stability and the rootedness that society actually
Right.
needs to be healthy.
Yeah, like almost like setting them up to fail.
Well, everybody's
Yes.
schizophrenic.
Yeah. But you know what? What you just said is very interesting because I think when you start observing just the behavior, the actions on the internet, on social media, and you compare it to, 20, 30, 40 years ago,
Hmm.
and I'm talking about the 20, 30, 40 years ago groups, would never think to have anything of half the magnitude public that we see being made public and it being okay. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but it's also the fact that we abdicated our responsibility as parents, and we did that
Right.
because of
Because
economics.
we're working to get
Yeah,
them what all the
ex-
stuff that they want.
exactly. The commercial
Yes.
system going to put you out there to work to get
Yes.
them. And I mean, it's all manipulation for people to become more and more powerful, to have more and more money. It's not about the comfort of the world. It's
Right.
not about the health of humanity. It's about the greed
So you're
and
going out,
evilness of
you're
a few people, a few
yes, so
families.
exactly.
You know,
So there's the person that's going out, that's working extra to provide all these things, that's putting money in the pockets of the people that are sitting around. Yeah,
yeah, that they call that creating the economy.
yeah.
They're gonna
Uh,
growing the economy.
right. And so you have this mother and father that are out there that are not home with their children because they're busy. Is that
Yeah,
correct?
yeah, and of course, our problem is now with technology that we can do all these things without people. What the heck are you going to do with all these people now?
Right.
And that's what they have to think about. That's what they're working on.
Right.
I mean, it's a real problem.
So it kind of back. So you think it backfired?
Well, I think they have always managed population because every so often they have these big wars and they kill millions and millions and millions of people. Second World War, First World War. They always have wars every century. Big wars to kill off people and to keep going. I mean, it's
Medical wars as
yeah, medical
well.
war. I mean, it's something that's part of that ruling mentality that this extra numbers of people that would be a burden on society could we could get rid of them. We don't need them anymore. We don't need slaves.
Right.
Those particular kinds of slaves.
Right.
We need what we call knowledge workers now.
But you made the money off of the idea um, that turned people into these slaves, right?
But there's no social moral conscience in humans.
Right.
That's a lie.
But it would be correct to say that, right? That
Yeah,
you
yeah,
created this program, you created
yeah,
this whole system
yeah,
that now in turn created
yeah,
these people that
yeah,
are pretty much
yeah,
what are they serving? What are they
yeah,
doing?
yeah.
Right? Consumers then,
Well,
not contributors.
yeah, because a human being is like I said, empty space
Yeah,
that is
because
then filled with whatever programming you want to put in them.
right.
So it's who will then determine the programming. The people that are going to determine the programming is the people who have the wealth,
Yeah.
because that wealth means power.
Right. So let's just break that down for a second. When you create a system that parents are working to provide things for young people and now creating them almost as helpless, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Not ambitious.
No,
You know what I mean? Like,
no.
and
Yeah,
so yeah, so
because
you got people, all these lazy people,
yeah,
lazy.
because yeah, we I
It's
mean,
funny when
because
you think about it.
because the society is not pushing values of thrift
Right. This
and
is what I'm saying. Yeah.
exercising by
Yeah.
using your head and working, coming out in the yard and using a little hammer. Look at the difference with
Right.
that when we were kids
Right.
and what you played with, what you're playing with
That's
now.
right. Yeah.
Hammer, dolly, and them kind of things. And
Right.
the kids playing with dolly
Right.
now.
Being industrious.
Yeah,
Exactly.
and learning how to
Exactly.
rear children and different
Right.
things like that.
Yeah.
So you see, whatever people are doing is what's being programmed.
Right.
It's not an accident.
Right.
Social decay is no accident.
right.
It is deliberate.
But
Uh,
but you're making choices though. That's the thing. And
who is
people
making choices? How are
well,
you going to make a choice if somebody else have already made the choice by giving you the idea?
yeah, but I'm a parent. You're a parent, right? And I know when I was rearing my three children, I made decisions to buy them
But you
clay
you were
as
making
opposed
decisions
to
made
an
upon your
iPad.
program.
Yeah, okay. And
Their
where
program is different
yeah,
because somebody is programming.
how do we change our program?
Well, you change your program normally if you create a new hierarchy.
Okay.
That's why we have conflict. That's why we have revolutions. That's why we have wars. It's all about changing in hierarchy that then changes program.
Okay.
That's how we have change.
All right. Yeah, because I mean, I want to talk about the
I
problem,
mean,
but I want to talk about a solution.
Dart, for instance, have a program. You see, the program is already changed, right? He's raising an elite. That's why you have a school.
Okay.
He came in and have come in with an idea of a family, which is a feudal idea. He's very on top of everything. And I am never I've been critical of him in that particular sense because I think he's very advanced in the way he's thinking.
Yeah, because I don't think that should be a criticism. I think it should be an example. It should be an example for you to do the same. You know
Well,
what I
but
mean?
yeah, but people don't normally have the resources to do the same, nor the knowledge or the exposure to do the same. If our government and if we were not oppressive of intellectuals like Roy Boyd and Gilbert McLean and other people, then we would compete. But you can't compete without new ideas. And if the people who went away and brought the new ideas to you, you destroy, how the heck are you going to compete? That
So
is the problem.
so then I would always have to go to the fact that you just mentioned two people that have had the opportunity, and I'm imagining that the opportunity that they've had to exhibit that power to help people to become enlightened, to become intellectual, to become stronger, they've done that. And so there are
Who?
examples. You just mentioned Roy Bodden
No,
and
he
Gilbert
hasn't done
McLean.
that. He's
Okay.
been prevented from doing it.
Okay.
He's done it the best he can. He could. Gilbert's done it the best he could, but I can tell you they have not done 10% because they've been blocked. That's
Okay.
why Roy sits at home like I do and write
Okay.
because that's the only way to preserve it. What you can offer. They
It's
are not going to because our colonial civil service,
okay.
the people that we elect, who we elected on the level of give me some turkey, give me some this, and
Yeah.
give me some that, not give me some ideas. Okay, so we're going to elect Kenneth Bryan. We're going to elect people like that who's going to give you something, but not somebody who's even traveled and really lived abroad or studied abroad, who has an idea of the world. The only thing he has an idea with is what's just around him.
Okay.
Now, how are you going to in a country that considers itself to be a world financial center?
Yeah.
Huh?
Yeah.
That got
So what always concerns me about any conversation like this is that it just feels like, okay, so we're just gonna throw our hands in the air then
well.
and that's
I
it.
mean, it's more or less at that stage. I mean, for me anyway,
Well, that's
because it's
not
hopeless.
good.
Look, man, you got to.
It's
I think you have
terrible.
already here two South African billionaires. You know what
Okay.
they did to South Africa? So people are moving here, that moving from other places to save their wealth. They're not come here to share it.
Okay.
So if we have people that you can give a turkey to and a ham to condemn people like myself that can't give them a turkey because I won't sell myself.
So what would you tell them? Stop taking the turkey and
No,
the
I
ham. I
can't.
say that.
Look,
I do say that.
Catherine, I can't tell them anything anymore that I haven't told them. And that's when I'm coming to the program, not to tell them anything. I mean,
Okay.
coming to the program to talk and exercise my voice and my ideas for someplace else. I can't tell them anything anymore.
Yeah.
After the times in which I had told them, I can't tell them anymore. And I don't feel a moral a responsibility to tell them.
So you're kind
Roy,
of done with that then.
well, it's. I mean, I actually have a different platform. That's why I'm writing the book. That's why I'm
Okay.
doing the research. That's why I'm talking as if I'm talking to a different audience.
Okay.
I am not concerned about their judgments
Okay.
because at the end of the day, they've had their time to judge me.
Right. So what's your main message then, or what's the main uh you know reason that you're writing the book? What is it that you want to come from that book?
Well, I
What's
mean,
the understanding that you
well,
want?
it's my growth, myself, my acceptance of myself, my understanding of myself, my parodies, and my whatever it is that had enlightened me. Those people who invested in my education by how they treated me and given me the opportunities, take me to America, take me to England, take me to Germany. It is about showing them, showing that I have contributed something to the building of knowledge and understanding, especially in relationship to people that are colonized.
Okay.
So it is paying back because that's all we can do in this life. Come experience and share our experiences. But if people don't want to take your experiences, you don't really have nothing in common with them. They don't have nothing in common with you. I have a emotional attachment to Caymanian people and things like that. But I don't feel that at my age that I should be asking them to accept me no more.
Right.
That's over. That's their problem is their problem
Right.
because I am not the martyr. I am a person who feels that to share knowledge is a gift from God, but to be beaten up and bulldozed by people because is not. And one of the things when I came back here in '77, I read Plato, the Greek philosopher, and I
Right.
don't know if you remember the analogy of the cave and the person who comes close to the entrance of the cave believe that the shadow is caused by something other than it's caused by, which
Right.
is the light, the sun, and how they kill a person. Really, if you disagree with them, they kill you because he had coming to the light. He has a little idea that it wasn't what they said. And this was what Plato always found as a peculiar about humanity. It has not changed. The human being is the same thing. You tell them the truth and they kill you. Jesus Christ told them the truth and they crucified him. You tell the truth and you die. That
Okay.
is the reality of life. That is what I talk about. That is the catharsis. That is what I witness to. Whether or not it's the preacher, he doesn't want to tell the truth. He doesn't want to hear the truth. He wants to get a parking lot for his first lady and for himself and have a good thing. He is
Okay.
not with the people. He has separated himself from the people. His flock are sheeps. They're ignorant.
Right.
They don't know. They can be told. So it's that kind of tragedy about human life that always made me go to write plays and fiction rather than stay with the sociological academic stuff.
So it's better to not tell the truth then?
Well, in a way, you get to play with the truth
Yeah.
and still tell it without telling it really to them that you're actually telling it.
Yeah.
That's what you can do in plays. That's what you can do in movies. That's what you can do in art. That's what Ebanks does. Al Ebanks does. Al Ebanks go to work construction or whatever he does. He come back and he does art and he's a proud black man and he says he's black and he's nice looking and he's still young and he's still a stud and nobody can confront him and he doesn't care
Okay.
what you say. And people respect him for that because he doesn't need them.
Ah. And so it maybe that there, right there, that was the truth of it. Is when you're able to
Independence.
not need somebody,
Independence.
then you can
Yeah.
not be afraid
Yeah.
of your voice,
That's right.
of speaking, of being true to whatever
That's
it
right.
is that you believe in. And I
That's right.
think that's so important. And that to me is a great message for our young
That's
people as well.
liberation.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. So not to sit and stay distracted on a device that's not
Yeah.
going to be helping you grow
Right.
and gain some independence. Because I think that's it.
Well,
Knowledge is power,
that's where you
and
are.
then your independence is
That's
your
right. You
freedom,
got it right, Catherine, because
right?
that's one reason why if you go on a radio station, they say don't have Dr. Macfield there. I mean, came on radio, people could be using me because even if I'm not saying everything that people understand, part a little bit they might understand, they might grasp it,
Right.
but you don't see them using me on Came on Radio or any of these stations. They're not going to use me in the press either because at the end of the day, they do not want people to think.
Right. But it doesn't mean that that's what you do in the long run. Just because someone doesn't want you to do something doesn't mean that you don't do it.
Well,
You
you
need to
don't.
have the
You're going to do
fortitude with
what people
yourself.
do. You're going to do what the people who feed you do. What does
Right.
the ox do? Why does the ox? Why is the ox in the position it
Right.
is in?
So
Because
figure
it's
out how to
fed.
feed yourself then. If you
Yeah,
figure out how to
exactly.
feed
That we
yourself, then
call
you
that
don't.
independence. That's
Yes.
why if people got back to farming and got back to doing things for themselves,
Right.
they would begin to develop an independence
Right.
so that we can be talking about alternative societies being organized
Right.
where Kenyans are going back to a little piece of land, a little communal type of situation, growing your own food,
Right.
living your own life, having an artistic community. There are all of these possibilities on a very beautiful sunny island like
Which is so
this.
necessary,
And it's
especially
so
at this
nice
point.
to do.
Absolutely. Six types of courage. I found this on your page. Also, I'm going to end the show with it. Physical courage, to keep going with resiliency, balance, and awareness. Social courage, to be yourself unapologetically. Moral courage, doing the right thing even when it's uncomfortable or unpopular. Emotional courage, feeling all your emotions, positive and negative, without guilt or attachment. Intellectual courage, to learn, unlearn, which is important, and relearn with an open and flexible mind. And spiritual courage, living with purpose and meaning through a heart centered approach towards all life and oneself.
Yeah, that's why I always told you, me and you should work together. You see how you put that all in perspective?
There you go.
That's
See?
exactly what we're saying.
Yeah,
All of this is about saying that.
absolutely.
And that's what we call conceptualizing very precisely in that particular manner. And Catherine, if we could just get people just to relax a little bit, like when you go to the psychiatrist and just relax a little bit and just start talking about yourself in a little bit and getting him to listen and maybe feeding back some information. And then you find out that life is not as bad as we think,
Right,
but we need to have control.
right. Absolutely.
We need to have control. We need to have
Absolutely.
the security, the feeling of security.
Yes. And to have that courage and get that independence so
Yeah.
that your voice can
Can
be
be
heard.
heard. Yeah.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Dr.
Yeah.
Frank, for coming on the show this afternoon. The doors are open whenever you want to
Yeah.
come. Whenever you have something to talk about, the doors are open. We go a long way, and
Yeah.
I appreciate the journey so far. And I want to thank the listeners as well for, just riding along, listening to us, and just taking it in. Independence, be courageous, and be awake.
Mhm.
And just see what's happening.
Well, I thank you very much also, Catherine, for having me on the show, having the courage to have me on the show, and to let me to actually, for the first time, I think that I have talked this broadly and forcefully about my ideas.
Absolutely. And we appreciate that. And we're looking for your work
Mhm.
that's out there between gods that you're working on right now, as well as the plays.
Mhm.
I think it's their time. I don't
Yeah,
think that it's past their
yeah,
time. I
no,
think
I
it's
don't
their
think so
time.
either.
So let's keep doing that. Thank you all
Uh,
so much for listening this afternoon. It has been your Wellness Wednesday on Straight Talk Drive at 5. We will be back tomorrow with Thursday, Success 101, and I have a great story to share with you. So please tune in then. I hope you're home and safe. If you're not, I still wish you a great drive home and a great evening. Take care of yourself.
I think the wellness came right in there.